Hi, this is Chef Brad, America's Grain Guy with the WonderMill Wonder Mix Company, and I'm here to teach you my basic gluten-free all-purpose dough. You mix this dough and then there's many things you can use it for. We're going to make pizza dough, kind of an English muffin, and dinner rolls with this one basic dough. You're going to love it. The end result is amazing, so let's get started. The first thing you need to do is get your mill out and grind your grains. Remember, we're teaching you the principle. The secret with gluten-free is a combination of 3 or more grains. So for this particular recipe, I took buckwheat, brown rice, and sorghum and blended them together and then ran them through the mill on the finest pastry setting over here, and I ended up with this beautiful flour. And I love the little specks of the buckwheat when you grind it fresh. It's great. And the advantage, you can buy those flours at the store, but the advantage when you grind it fresh is optimal nutrition. And especially with things like buckwheat, you get some of that texture that you don't get with the store-bought ones. So it's pretty fun. So we have our flour ready to go here, and we have our mixer. Most of the doughs that you do gluten-free are more like a thick batter. They're not going to be a dough. You have to totally, when you go to gluten-free, erase everything we've taught you about making bread. It doesn't apply to gluten-free. It's a different world. These are batters. So instead of calling it a dough, we really should call it a gluten-free batter. So here we have our mixer ready. Now we use a lot of eggs with gluten-free. So here's our eggs in there. And the recipe we'll have available for you. A little bit of oil. Here's our agave. I love using agave when I'm baking gluten-free. It actually gives it a little bit of extra rise, and we're trying to make it healthy. So we're going to put some agave in there. That's great. And then, of course, we want to add our xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is a gluten substitute that they use to give it kind of like a gluten texture, but it doesn't work like gluten, but that's what they claim. We're going to add a half a cup of potato starch, and the potato starch is a texture thing also. Then we have a cup and a half of water, a little bit of that good Himalayan salt in there. Okay, and then yeast. And our yeast, we're going to use a tablespoon of the instant yeast. We're going to dump that in there. And then we're going to add our flour, and it's 4 cups of flour. Remember, when we're doing yeasted doughs, we add flour till it cleans the sides. You don't want to do that with the gluten-free dough. If you add flour till it cleans the sides, you're making gluten-free bricks. And there's no purpose for gluten-free bricks in your diet. So here we go. 4 cups only of flour. Oh, and the flour smells so good. Those wonderful fresh ground grains. Okay, we have that in there. And we have our dough hook, and we also have this little dough divider. We love using this for gluten-free because it just really helps the dough get a better mix. So we have that in there. We're going to turn this on, and we're going to mix it for 6 minutes. It's going to be really sticky, but let it go 6 minutes. That helps develop that xanthan gum sort of, and the yeast starts to activate. So here we go. Okay, our dough has mixed for 6 minutes. Now it's ready to create the things we're going to do with it. So the first thing I do is I wet my hand a little bit, because gluten-free doughs are great when you use a little bit of moisture to separate it. So my hand is wet. I'm just going to scrape that dough off there. We don't want to lose any of it. And it's a really wet dough. That's okay. You've done nothing wrong. And then we're going to pull the dough divider out and just brush that, scrape that off there, and we're good to go. Okay, now that we have this, to make our pizza dough, is what I do is I take flour, this flour, some of the flour you've already ground, and set it on your parchment paper. And then you're just going to take some scoops of this and just put it down on top of the flour. And it just depends on how big you want your pizzas, how big you make it. And we're going to do 2 pizzas on here. Okay, and then we're going to take more flour and put it on the top. And then we're just going to pat that out with flour. until we get the thickness we want our dough. And I kind of like thin crust. So we're just going to pat that out. And it's a sticky dough. So if it gets sticky, just put a little more flour on your hands. Here we go. And I bake these in a pizza oven, in a regular oven. Sometimes I'll par bake them. Par baking means where you take them and you just bake them for 2 to 3 minutes, not all the way. And then I'll take them and let them cool and put them in parchment paper and throw them in my freezer. Then when I want a quick pizza, I can pull them out, cover them, and put them in the oven, and I have a great, I don't have to go through the whole process every time of making the dough. So there's our dough. That's beautiful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to top that with sauce and cheese and pepperoni, and we're going to put it in a hot oven to bake. So we're going to set this aside for just a moment, and I'm going to show you the next thing that I like to do with this. So we have our flour here, and we're just going to take our flour, and I'm going to take a scoop of this and just dump it right in the flour. Okay, and then I'm just going to take these and roll them around in the flour and just kind of make little, set them on the paper. And these are kind of like my gluten-free English muffin. So these are going to bake up, and if I want to do an Eggs Benedict, or these even make great sandwich breads. And the texture of these when they bake, it totally changes. You really don't realize it's gluten-free. And the taste is really good because you've used all these wonderful fresh ground flours. Okay, and then we're going to let these rise. Just let them rise until they puff up, and then we're going to bake those. So we'll set that right there. And then I have another pan ready, and I'm just going to take scoops of the dough again. And if you have an ice cream scoop, it works pretty good too to get the round. Okay, we're just going to take and put kind of golf ball size scoops right into the flour. The first time I made these, I really didn't want to try one because I didn't know if they would be very good, and so I didn't. The pizza dough was great that I made, and so I had the leftover pizza dough, and I made these rolls, and I thought, we'll try it out. And so I made them, and I didn't try them, and then we're just going to cover them with flour and put them in here. I didn't try them until the next day. Oh my goodness, I was so amazed at the texture. It just totally blew me away that they turned out so good. And they rise up really nice in this pan. Just kind of make them little rolls. Pretty simple to do. When they grow, I'm going to do a few more for in there. Gluten-free doesn't have to be hard at all. It's just learning the technique. It's a different technique. But once you get that technique down, it's amazing the things that you can do. The next recipe I'm working on is cinnamon rolls. But I'm really picky about cinnamon rolls, so we're not going to introduce the recipe until it's perfect, but we're working on that one. Okay, roll these up. I'm going to scoot it over. Beautiful. And these are just going to bake in the most beautiful little rolls. They're going to be light and fluffy. You won't be able to tell they're gluten-free at all. And when they grow, they'll shape out nice and round. There you go. 3 different ways to take this one simple batter to create endless possibilities in what you want to do. Gluten-free, made easy by America's Grain Guy, Chef Brad, and the WonderMill Wonder Mix Company. Have a great day.